Howdy YouTube, episode 3. Wow, yesterday I decided to take a break. I think it's good to take breaks every once in a while. It's not a matter of really taking breaks so much as trying to pace one's self so as not to burn out too quickly. I don't know how long I can keep doing videos like this, we'll see. I've been wanting to do it for a while. It seems like now is a good time for me to actually try to do this because I feel like I can produce a pretty decent pace, at a pretty decent pace, a number of these videos in the near foreseeable future. At least through the summer, maybe into the fall. Winter, we'll see how it turns out. It's going to get kind of cold. So today I thought, excuse me. Yep, totally unedited. Good time to clear my throat anyways. So today I thought I would talk about what I did in 2020. That wonderful year that we just got out of, hopefully got out of. It seems like we're kind of out of it. So it started with January. I decided not to participate in January in 2020, and instead I focused on job hunting because at that point I'd run out of money. If you look back at what was going on with that month in terms of what I've uploaded, the videos that I uploaded, no January stuff, and really not much of anything at all. February, I mean, it turned out that that was a really good idea because in February I got a job and I was gainfully employed. But some weird twist of health events happened to me unrelated to the pandemic whatsoever. And it really all started a year before when I first started studying electrical engineering and synthesizers, like, you know, just the insides and DIY. And I was ordering a lot of components from people in China through eBay. So I was already, what am I trying to say? Sorry, I was trying to say the word encountered. Hang on a second, let me drink my coffee. Exposed, there we go, that's the word I'm looking for. I was exposed to the Chinese New Year and the holiday that ensues thereafter. That lasts about a month. Not everybody takes off the whole month of, you know, mid-January to mid-February, but enough people take off that throughout the various weeks, you could say like pretty much for about a whole month, businesses are closed. So I was used to that. I was accustomed to it already. When that came around again in 2020, it seemed like it was just kind of the regular, you know, okay. But it lasted and it didn't end. Around the beginning of March, right before I was gainfully employed, like it was a weekend, it happened on a Saturday. I stabbed my thumb about right here with a pair of tweezers, very, very sharp tweezers, and they got in pretty deep. And these were tweezers that I had been using to solder, not solder with, but I'd been using to like break out pieces of solder and get into certain various things with. So inevitably, I probably injected myself with lead when I stabbed myself. And I realized that at the time, so I just figured, okay, well, you know, clean it as best as I can, maybe try to squeeze and get a little blood to come out. And tomorrow, if it feels worse, you know, I'll think about it, and definitely Monday, if it feels worse, I'll go do something about it. Now that Monday, I had a job interview for the job that I got. Sunday came around and I started to feel pain in my hand. I was worried about it. Monday came around, the pain kind of got down to here, and I decided to go to the emergency room and I got a tetanus shot. And it worked. Was it the right thing to do? I don't know. It worked though. But that started a weird kind of domino effect. I mean, I don't think it was the cause of it, but it was definitely event number one. So shortly after that, the month of March, I worked and I commuted to work about 40, 45 miles every day. You know, I dealt with it. It was okay. The job was okay at first. I knew that, you know, this wasn't the job for me, but everything was going okay. But then the pandemic hit. And being a tech company, we were on the forefront of embracing the lockdown, so to speak, in that we were working from home pretty immediately. I was at that place for about 3 weeks before we decided to start working from home. So it was the last week of March into the first week of April right after April Fool's Day, when my sciatica kicked full in. Now I had experienced sciatica pain and discomfort without knowing what it was for several years before this happened. Because I had sort of secluded myself in 2019, I had my own little pre-lockdown before the pandemic ever even was a glimpse in the public eye. And I was just studying electrical engineering during that time. I was doing myself no favor by not exercising and getting out, walking around at the very least. I was walking around some, but not a good idea. So that first month that I was working during February, I had some complications. The first day at work when I showed up, it was weird. I could not walk backwards. And because, in other words, I was about to have a sciatic attack anyways. And the job was helping to prevent that, because it was forcing me to get out, even though I was sitting down to drive to work. It was in a different sitting position, I suppose. And then when I got to work, even though I was sitting at work, it was still yet another different sitting position. And I was having to walk around. And yeah, those first few days at work, I was having difficulty walking. I felt really bizarre. It was very, very weird. So unfortunately, when we went back home to work, myself and all my coworkers, I went right back to the original bad habits. And it didn't take very long. It took only about a week before, it felt like that nerve snapped, is what it felt like. Now, it didn't. It slipped out of its groove, is what happened to me. I was working on a really cool little piece of electronics that is meant to be a current limiter for working on high AC voltage things such like guitar amplifiers. And I was drilling into some wood and carving into some wood and bending some wires around, some really, really thick gauged wires. And I don't know, I guess I kind of twisted something down there just right. That night I was walking up the stairs, and when I got to that last step, my left foot raising up, just got it right there. It was about 7 p.m. or so. I wasn't going up to retire for the evening. I was just going up to get like a glass of water, perhaps to use the bathroom. And that was it. I knew something was wrong. I just kind of laid down in bed, and I don't know, for whatever reason, I just went to sleep. And of course, inevitably, I wake up about 2 a.m. because that was like way too early to go to sleep. And I just fall right out of bed when I try to get up. And I can't walk. And I can't stand up. I basically slept the rest of the night on the floor because there was no way for me to get up. And I'm not sure how many days this went on, only about 1 or 2 days. I was able to get a walker, and I was able to climb up, the sides of things, like a couch or a chair, and twist around ever so gently to get to the walker. When you have a pure blown sciatic nerve attack like that, you can't get up, you can't stand up, you can't stand down, you can't sit up, you can't sit down. It's really, really bad. You have to use a walker to get around, and I could just take little baby steps the whole way. So everything was downstairs, all of my equipment was downstairs. The good news is I'm working remotely, so I still can keep my job. I would have had to take off, I don't know. That's crazy. It was near impossible for me to get into a car and have somebody drive me to work, let alone drive. So completely debilitating, just absolutely crushing. So I set up in the kitchen, and that's when the craziness for me started. I mean, at that point, I was in so much pain, and I was not taking painkillers for that. But I don't know. You're in so much pain, if you could imagine. It's hard to think straight. It's hard to focus on things and just concentrate. But it's not an excuse, but it's definitely what started me buying a lot of synthesizers. I don't know. At that point, I kind of felt mortal. And I just felt this urge to just start acquiring more synths than I really had business acquiring. So what happened then? Let me think for just a quick second. It's a very, very, very interesting year, to say the least. After that, so I started to see a chiropractor. and that was helping a lot. But one night, I believe it was a Thursday night, I was laying down prior, and I got up, and I think I got up a little too quick, and I tried to use the restroom, and I was trying to get there a little too fast, because I think what had happened is I took a nap, but I didn't want to sleep for very long and end up oversleeping, like way too much. So I was in a hurry to get up and go do whatever it was that I was going to do. While in the bathroom, I collapsed, and I was said to have been found. You know, when they woke me up, I was collapsed on the toilet, just over, and didn't, you know, I felt lucky because I realized that I could have died. I could have landed on my head on any number of marble and granite edges and porcelain, and could have really messed up my face, could have broken a bunch of teeth, broken my nose, lost an eye. You know, I say that the bathroom is the most dangerous place. Yeah, it's pretty damn dangerous. More so than the kitchen. Hate to disappoint Frank Zappa. The kitchen is also very, very dangerous, but it's like the bathroom is really dangerous. So, you know, everything was kind of okay. You know, it was a very scary ordeal for me, and I didn't know what was going to result of that. But actually, I think that was a Tuesday, because it was a Thursday when I was taking a shower, and I looked down and I noticed something wrong about my body. And someone once said, like, you don't know, it was the size of a goose egg. And yeah, there was like a pouch down there on me, something bulging out, and it was kind of soft and pudgy. And I about passed out when I pushed into it. So, okay, time to go see the doctor. So I went to go see the doctor on this one, and sure enough, that was a hernia. So now I've got a hernia. The good news is I have really good insurance, health insurance. So he hooked me up with a surgeon. I was actually surprised that I was going to be able to get elective surgery during the pandemic. In my opinion, that's kind of essential surgery, borderline, but for me it was classified as elective, which just means it's more expensive. So at the beginning of May, I had surgery. Wonderful. So here we are at the beginning of February. I maybe avoid lead poisoning, potentially. At the beginning of April, I get sciatica. And then at the beginning of May, I'm getting surgery for a hernia. Okay, so I won't go into details about surgery. It was a very, very, it was an experience, to say the least. But I survived that, and at this point, well, I will say this. Afterwards, I was definitely on painkillers after the hernia surgery. I felt that the pain level for sciatica on a scale of 1 to 10 was about an 11. But it was a tolerable pain. So maybe you could say, like, okay, well, that's definitely not an 11 then. I mean, the pain was just, you couldn't concentrate on anything else, is what I'm trying to say. It was just so in your face, and at the same time, I really didn't feel like painkillers were going to necessarily help. It's a nerve that is just constantly on fire. It's ridiculous. I mean, at some point, you just have to stop thinking about it, and it's just in the background though at all times, just everywhere. Whereas with the hernia surgery, you know, I was actually cut open. So yeah, in the groin area there, it was very, very painful, and that was a very, very. Here comes the street cleaner. They just paved this road. Thank goodness that cleaner's going down. So there's been a lot of activity on it. I didn't think they were going to go today because it was going to rain, but now the clouds are clearing up. It feels like LA here, where in the morning you get this coastal clouds coming over. And then when the sun finally starts peeking through about 11 to noon, it burns it all off. And then afterwards, it's just pure sun until the sun goes down. It can get really hot, but then unless it's just like crazy, crazy hot, it usually cools off incredibly. And usually the summer season doesn't start in LA, really on the entire West Coast, until July the 4th. And that has a lot to do with the fact that the Pacific Ocean is just cold, and it doesn't start getting warm, until around July. So yeah, the pain level for the hernia surgery was just, it was very unbearable for me. So I definitely took the painkillers, but I got off of them fairly quickly because they cause constipation, and that is, like when they've cut open your abdomen, you don't want to be constipated and you don't want to be nauseated. So they definitely educated me on all those things. I recovered wonderfully. Took a while for me to really get over it though. So here we are at the end of May, going into June. I guess June, I was starting to feel a little more perky and so forth, but I knew that at that point that my job wasn't going to last much longer because of the pandemic. And I was still very fortunate to be working from home at that time. So into July and August, and at some point, during March, during 303 day, I had no time really for 303 day that year at all. I remember just being very, very busy with work, and anything that I could do musically, that came out was just a gift at that point because I had very, very little time to invest into it. Then at the end of July, I lost my job. So bam, here we are, August and September. Pretty much uneventful, to tell you the truth. Just kind of, waiting for the politics and all that, crap to hit, and which it did. But yeah, that was kind of my 2020, at least the first part of it. Like I said, there was nothing eventful that happened in the second half, apart from me just honestly mostly just enjoying myself and acquiring a lot of synthesizers and getting bit by the guitar pedal bug big time. And here I am finding myself, just able to buy all this stuff. And I did start to feel like, because of a lot of shortages that were happening in the IC industry, you can kind of see it, that it was a good time to start acquiring gear. And I'm going to try to hang on to it now as long as I can. So right now, here I am, unemployed once again, as I like to call it, fun employed. And I really do find myself at a crossroads because, as I said previously, I think it was in episode 1, that really the only thing that I'm unhappy with in my life right now, I think, is just my career as a software engineer. I don't want to delve into why. Let's just say that, okay, maybe it's time to move on. What can I do otherwise to get out of that career, to transition? And that's where I find myself right now, is thinking about other forms of employment. In many ways, I did take an incredible step backwards by learning electrical engineering. I feel that most people looking forward to technology, which is usually the direction to go, do not appreciate electronics at this point in electrical engineering. I always did. It's just that I didn't get it. And looking at it now, I feel like there's a lot of people who actually believe that they don't need to ever worry about that again. It's an anarchic thing. It's a thing from the 20th century, I think there's always going to be need for repairs. There's always going to be need to understand the fundamentals of electronics because, we've only scratched the surface of what there is to offer. So yeah, I think we're in this weird, okay, I think that electrical engineering, at least in this country, I don't want to say all of Western civilization, it's definitely moved to Asia for the most part. But for the most part here where I am, it's almost a dark age for electrical engineering. Canada, same thing. It's really hard to find a job designing circuits for somebody. All of that is being done in Asia. It's just where it's being done. Maybe we'll start to come back here. Maybe repairing will start to become a thing. Seriously, maybe it will start to become more of a thing. I'm not saying that it is. I see two sides to that coin. On one side, back in 2019, I found a synthesizer repair shop in Nashville. And I just went to this place. I knocked on the door, introduced myself, figured I would be told, okay, we only got time for you, go away. And the guy instead invited me in and showed me his operation. It was so cool. So, and he was actually open to me being an apprentice for him. He wasn't going to be able to necessarily pay me, but depending on what kind of things I could offer down the future, because I did have computer skills, if I was able to help him repair some things that, were on that digital level, so to speak, then yeah, maybe there would be money for me. So, I wasn't looking for money, I was looking for education anyways. And if anything, he would have also been able to show me, he worked on high voltage amplifiers. That would have been really cool. The problem is that I lived, 45 miles away, and that's just too expensive. So, if it was part of my trip going in and out between to do something else, running errands, then sure, yeah, it'd be nice to stop by for a few hours and hang out and chew the fat. At the same time, he doesn't really have time to have somebody just do that. He needs an apprentice. Long story short, he did actually find an apprentice to do that. I think it's really interesting. It's just me being there. Believe this or not, this is going to sound really kind of flaky, but it's like just me being there could have caused more people to have interest in wanting to be there too. This is how natural competition comes about. And in this particular case, if somebody who was living more locally in the area, who could afford the gas to drive to him, hang out and be his apprentice, and really want to do that, desire, haha, you see that? Then yeah, it goes to the better person in this particular case. I still have an open invitation, with this person. If I ever need their services, I know where to go. What I did learn from this person is that there is a trend towards large corporate synthesizer companies shutting out repairmen. And I can't remember the exact story, but somebody had spilt a beverage onto a synthesizer, and that voids the warranty. I mean, think about it. If you spilt a beverage on your iPhone, Apple is not going to fix it, okay? So here, it's the same thing anywhere you go. It's negligence. It's like you're told, hey, it's part of the warranty, and especially if you're past warranty. So he gets this keyboard in, it's got water damage. X corporation tells him, fix it anyways. And it's really, see, here's the part that I kind of didn't fully understand, but what I pulled down from it is that, like, he doesn't really get paid to do this, is the problem. I think it was under warranty is what it is, but that normally would void the warranty. But like, no, they're rock stars. They get to walk on air, and we just, we got to do what, groan. So, but that's not really, of course, leading towards this theory or this, challenge or accusation. Even, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, I hope, that big corporate synth companies are pushing out repairmen. I mean, I'll go do an interview if I have to, I suppose. We'll get down to the bottom of this if need be. But I was left, convinced, that yeah, I could see what's going on here. I don't think it's a no-brainer. I had a TV set out in LA. When I lived out in LA, I had a TV set, and it broke down after about 2 or 3 months. Luckily, it was under warranty. Called up, Best Buy had somebody come out to fix it. And, that is one thing that really, really piqued my interest into getting into DIY, like an early seed that was planted, unbeknownst to me at the time. But the guy came out into my apartment. He was really, really cool guy. Ripped open the TV set, took out like these large major chunks, these component sections, so to speak, that were, daughter circuit boards onto like the main motherboard, so to speak. And he said, yeah, this is pretty much what we do now. We don't like actually go in. I mean, he said there's probably just one component that's actually at fault here. Like in this case, it probably would be a capacitor, or maybe one IC, that just blew. And he said, but we don't, even though that's the better thing to do, like we just come out and replace this whole thing, and it's just a big package that we go in and replace. So there is this trend by the industry to go towards that where, there is no longer repair. But let me tell you something, it ain't gonna work. There will always be mom and pop shops out there that are gonna be doing this. Now here's where I'm gonna get a little kooky on you. What do you think's gonna happen when the robots are here? Think about that. Who are they gonna go to get repaired? I'm thinking to myself, I want to be a robot doctor in the future. That's what I'm thinking. All right, cheers, y'all. Have a great day. Well, you got your white keys. And you can play all white keys. You got your black keys. You can play all black keys. But isn't it much cooler to mix them up?